Welcome everyone to Fruits of the Orchard. We are going to be learning the last parsha of the Torah, Zot HaBrachah. And so I want to start, we're going to read the last verse of the Torah, and we're going to try to understand at least part of the deep meaning in this last verse. So it says like this. Ulachol hayad. Wait, before this, it says that God, that a prophet like Moses never arose in Israel again like Moshe. And the Torah testifies that God spoke to Moshe panim el panim, face to face. And then it says all of the signs and wonders that God sent to do in the land of Egypt, and to Pharaoh and all of his servants and all of his land. In other words, Moshe was the agent, he was the vehicle, the messenger for which God did all of these wonders in Egypt. And now I'll read the last verse of the Torah. Ulachol hayad hachazaka, and all of the strong arm, ulachol hamoreh hagadol, and all of the great wonders, asher asa Moshe, that Moshe did le'enei kol Yisrael, in the eyes of all of Israel. And that's the end of the Torah. So I'll just say it again. All of the strong arm of God and all of the great wonders that he did, that Moshe did in the eyes of all of Israel. Again, Moshe is the messenger. Moshe isn't really making the miracles. God is making the miracles through Moshe. So we're going to look at this concept. What does it mean in the eyes of all of Israel? So Rashi says an incredible thing, really a very incredible thing. I'm going to touch on it, but those who have Orchard of Delights, go to Parsha Zot HaBrachah, and there's a long Torah about this Rashi. We're just going to touch on it, but anyone who wants to go in depth, go to Orchard of Delights and see this whole Torah. So if you just read the verse, all of the strong arm and all of the wonders and the miracles that Moshe did in the eyes of all of Israel. So what would we think of? We'd think of the plagues, the incredible miracles that were happening with the plagues. We'd think of the splitting of the sea. We'd think of Moshe bringing water out of a rock on a couple of occasions. We'd think of Moshe being on Har Sinai for 40 days, and it says he didn't eat and he didn't drink. And he brought down the Torah from heaven. That's what we would think. Rashi says something completely different. Rashi says, what is this great wonder that Moshe did? He broke the tablets before their eyes. How do we understand this? Because when Moshe came down and saw them worshiping the golden calf, this is like the end. It was like, we're told that had that not happened, and we would have received the first tablets, Moshe would have been Mashiach. We would have come right into Israel. Moshe would have built the temple that the whole world would come to, and the whole world would be rectified. And the Midrash says that death itself would have been abolished. We would have returned to the Garden of Eden. So Moshe comes down and they're worshiping the golden calf. And the Slonim Rebbe explains that, and there are many explanations, but he says something very, very powerful, that he saw at that moment, if he didn't do something radical, drastic, to shock the people out of their mishugas, the crazy headspace that they were in, worshiping this golden calf, then he felt just talking to them wouldn't work. And so he broke the tablets and he broke the spell. They were like in a spell. He broke the spell and he helped begin the process of tshuva. And then 180 days later, he comes down on Yom Kippur with the second tablets as a sign of forgiveness and atonement, that the second tablets were received by the people on the day of Yom Kippur. Okay, so now we go back to in the eyes of all of Israel. And actually Rashi brings also that God agreed with Moshe, because it doesn't say that God told Moshe to break the tablets. Moshe did this on his own initiative. But Rashi brings that God said to him, Yeshar kochacha asher shibarta. Good going, Moshe, that you broke the tablets. Good going, Yeshar kayach. This is Rashi. But let's understand le'enei kol Yisrael, because usually we translate it as in the eyes of all of Israel. But this lamed, le'enei kol Yisrael, can mean all the wonders that Moshe did in regard to or to fix the eyes of Israel. Because it says all the wonders that he asa, that he did. Now this word asa, he did, we see it, it's the last word of creation. The last description of Shabbat, where it says everything that God made, asher bara Elokim la'asot, that God made to do. Everyone says that's very redundant. What do you mean to do? Everything that God made, God rested. But God rested from everything that he did to do. So what do we learn from the word to do? La'asot, to fix, to rectify, and to become partners with God in the completion of the world. That God purposely left the world unfinished so that humanity could play its part in finishing with God the job. And so this is connected to what we learned in Parshat Ha'azinu, that ki chelak Hashem amo, that God is specifically looking to the Jewish people to be partners in order to finish the work of creation, to be partners. So here also, it says that when it says that Moshe did all these wonders, le'enei kol Yisrael, not just in the eyes of, but to rectify or regarding the eyes of Israel. So what is this talking about? So this is talking about the eyes that the people had when they began worshiping a golden calf. This is what Moshe had to fix. This was like the greatest sin of the Jewish people. Probably the greatest sin was Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But for the Jewish people, this was the greatest sin. So here we can we can see something very deep about eyes. Here we're gonna continue and talk about what is needed to fix our eyes. What does it mean to fix our eyes? So sometimes eyes are called the windows to the soul, because so much of how we understand the world, how we relate to the world, is according to what we see. That's the windows to the soul. But here we have an interesting thing. We have two different possibilities. That when it talks about, we'll call it sin. When it talks about giving into your evil inclination, it can work in two ways. One, we have one statement that says the eyes see and the heart longs and the body finishes the act. So this could be, we could be talking about sexuality, or we could be talking about a rich piece of chocolate cake. The eye sees and the heart starts to want it, to desire it, to go after it. And the body finishes the job. So here, it's the first thing is the eye see. And this is what's called in Jewish thought, shmirat einayim, guarding one's eyes. In other words, that we know how society works now. So if you watch TV, just the advertisements, just the show, you're going to see a lot of things that maybe we shouldn't be seeing. That if we go to certain places, we're going to see things that it would be better not to see, because it's an enticement. So that's one statement. In other words, the eye awakens the desire. We see, and our desire is awakened. But then in the Shema, in the third passage of the Shema, it reverses it. It says, don't go after your heart and after your eyes that you run after. So here the heart comes first. So how do we understand that? That we see according to what we want to see. In other words, if someone wants to be enticed, then that attitude will point the eyes in a place that it will be enticed. And both of these statements are true. Sometimes the heart goes after the eyes. Sometimes the eyes go after the heart. So here, when Moshe didn't come down from Har Sinai on time, or at least the people thought not on time, they jumped to make a replacement, a golden calf. And so here it's more that their emotions, their insight, their unfixed, unrectified part of Egypt that was still within them, directed them to build this golden calf. And they started seeing, and the Midrash says that the Satan created an image in heaven that, like, let's say, like the clouds looked like the casket of Moshe. And the people saw this and imagined that Moshe is dead and then they ran after their heart. So again, it goes both ways. That the expression is, it's easier to take Israel out of Egypt than it is to take Egypt out of Israel. And that was the reason ultimately why we wandered for 40 years, because we had to get that part of Egypt out of us before we could enter into the Holy Land. Okay, so now we don't have time tonight, but the first Torah in Fruits of the Orchard in this Parsha is called "The End is Wedged in the Beginning." So we know, and this is what I spoke about before in Orchard of Delights, there is a tradition to read the last 3 words of the Torah and connect them immediately to the beginning of the Torah. Why? Because on Simchat Torah, we end the Torah with Zot HaBrachah. We finish reading the Torah, and we immediately begin from Bereshit. And so the tradition is to read it, Le'enei kol Yisrael Bereshit bara Elokim et hashmayim v'et haaretz. In the eyes of all of Israel, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So this goes with the class we gave on Ha'azinu, that for the sake of Israel, God created the world. So here it's saying, Le'enei kol Yisrael, in the eyes of all of Israel, God created the world, meaning that the souls of Israel, which are an essential part of the inside of God, were witnesses to the creation. So that is a whole idea in itself. But here we want to connect it that the end of the Torah is Moshe blessing the people. Almost the whole last parsha of Zot HaBrachah, even the name of the parsha, this is the blessing that Moshe blessed all of the people, tribe by tribe, just like Yaakov at the end of his life blessed the tribes, and then he passed away, and here Moshe passes away. So the last thing Yaakov did, and here in the Torah, the last thing is Moshe blessing the people. So this is connected to the beginning of the Torah. The first letter of the Torah is a bet. And there's a beautiful Zohar that explains why the bet is the first letter of the Torah. So the Zohar says that when God wanted to create the world, all of the letters came before God and said, please start the Torah with me. And they began from the last letter, from the Tav. And the Tav comes and says, you should start the Torah with me, and gives a reason. And God says, very good reason, but there's another reason why it would not be so good to start the Torah with your letter. And the Zohar goes through all of the letters, each one of the letters, what they propose, why you should start the Torah with me, and how God answered, until it got to the letter Bet, which is the second letter. It's almost the first. And the Bet says, my letter begins the word bracha, blessing. And with me, we will bless you. And God said, I like that idea. That's a great idea. I'm going to start the Torah from you. So everyone asked, well, what about the Aleph? The Aleph didn't even have a chance to bring its proposal. So it says that God comforted the Aleph by saying, you'll be the first of the 10 commandments. You'll be the first letter of the 10 commandments. So here we have it's Jewish law we say 100 blessings a day. So we understand why God chose the letter Bet, because it's bracha. So here we see the end of the Torah. That's why this insight is called the end is wedged in the beginning, and the beginning in the end. This is from Sefer Yetzirah. Na'ut sofan v'techilatan v'techilatan b'sofan. The end is wedged in the beginning and the beginning in the end. So the end of the Torah is blessing. The beginning of the Torah is blessing. The first bet is bracha. So this is just a very beautiful connection. But the usual connection that everyone makes between the last letter of the Torah and the first letter, the last letter is a lamed, first letter is a bet. Spells lev, heart, lev. And so for this, we are going to go to Pirkei Avot, second chapter, 13th Mishnah. Second chapter, 13th Mishnah. And it says like this. This is talking about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, one of the greatest of the sages at the time of the destruction of the Second Temple, and he led Israel led the sages to Yavna, and in Yavna they created the way to continue Judaism without the temple. This is one of the most important transitions in all of Jewish history, and it was led by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So in this Mishnah, it says, the print is very small here. It says, Amar lehem, he had 5 cardinal students. So he said to them, go and see what is the best way that a person should cling to. In other words, what's the best attitude to have in life? What's the best way to walk through life? How should we look at life? So his 5 Talmidim gave their answer. Rabbi Eliezer said, Ayin Tova, with a good eye. Rabbi Yeshua Amar Chaver Tov, that through having good friends, like that's like the most important thing. Rabbi Yossi said Shachen Tov, very similar, having good neighbors. Rabbi Shimon Omer Haro'et Nolad, one who can see what will be born from any circumstance, can understand the effect that will come from a cause. And Rabbi Elazar, this is Ben Arach, said Lev Tov, a good heart. So the Mishnah continues, Amar lehem, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, Ro'eh ani et divrei Elazar ben Arach min divreichem, shebechlal divarav divreichem. So he said, I see in the words of Rabbi Elazar ben Arach the best answer, because in his answer of a good heart is included everything that you said. And so this is hinted to that the last letter of the Torah and the first letter spell Lev. And in essence, this tells us what is the purpose of the Torah, is that we should have a good heart. In Yiddish, to be a mensch. Like, what is the point of keeping all of the mitzvot in the Torah and not being, in the end, I mean, it's almost oxymoronic to say this, because if you follow everything in the Torah, you will be a good person. But theoretically, someone could follow every detail of the Torah and lose track of the ultimate purpose is to be a good person. We have another hint to this in Sfirat HaOmer. Sfirat HaOmer is 49 days that we count from the second day of Pesach till Shavuos, the giving of the Torah. And 49 in Gematria equals Lev Tov. Exactly what Elazar ben Arach says, that the purpose of Sfirat HaOmer, the purpose of what's called Tikkun HaMidot, of fixing our characteristics, our personality, our emotions, our worldview, our intellect, is in order to have a Lev Tov. And then we receive the Torah on the 50th day. So there's one other connection here, is in Parshat Zot HaBrachah. So there's another verse here. And it says like this. And Israel dwelled safely and alone as Yaakov blessed them in a land of grain and wine. Also their heavens will drip dew. It's very, very poetic. It follows the whole idea of blessings, that God and the Torah are blessing the Jewish people. Moshe is blessing the Jewish people. So in Hebrew, the words for that Yaakov is blessing them is as Ein Yaakov. Like the essence of Yaakov is blessing them, Ein Yaakov. But the same letters could be read the eye of Yaakov. The eye of Yaakov. And this expression, Ein Yaakov. So first of all, there's a very, very important set of books called the Ein Yaakov. The Ein Yaakov went through the entire Talmud and picked out all of the, what's called the Agadata, all of the stories, the metaphors, the symbolic teachings, the allegories, and put it all in this one set of books called the Ein Yaakov. But Ein Yaakov, if you look at the Gematria, equals 312. 312 equals the word Chadash, new. So here, this is connected to what we're trying to say here. That the fixing that Moshe wanted to do was to fix the eyes of Israel. In other words, to fix the way we look at the world. That is just such, that's how Moshe wanted to end the Torah, is by blessing the people that they should fix and rectify and clarify and refine the way that they're looking at the world. Because the expression goes that the way we look at the world is the way the world looks back at us. And this is such an important concept. The way we look at the world, that is going to determine how we think the world is looking at us. So if we look at the Torah with what's called an ayin ra, an evil eye, we look at it through pessimism, sarcasm, negative feelings. Well, that is what the world is going to give back to us in a mirror image. Mida keneged mida. Measure for measure. So Moshe wants to fix this. And so the end of the Torah is giving us a hint. So how do you fix your eyes? Is by seeing the newness every single day, not to be caught in our old patterns, our old ways of thinking, our old resentments. This is such a great Torah for right before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to let go of all of our negativity. Because when we look at the world in a negative way, that's exactly how we're going to experience it. So here we have to do the very hard spiritual work of cleansing our neshamas to be able to see the world anew again. So that's just a beautiful connection with the end of the Torah and the beginning of the Torah. The eye of Yaakov is the ability to start over, let go of all these resentments and negativity. So I just want to read, for those who have Fruits of the Orchard, it's on the bottom of 574. This is a beautiful, beautiful prophecy from Isaiah. And I'm reading it, I mean, Isaiah has so many beautiful prophecies, but I'm reading this because you'll see that he mentions the eyes over and over again, the way that we see. So it says like this: how beautiful are the feet of the herald on the mountains, meaning the one who is going to announce the redemption, announcing peace, heralding good tidings, announcing salvation, saying to Zion, your God has manifested his kingdom. The voice of your watchmen, they raised a voice. Together they shall sing, for eye to eye they shall see when God returns to Zion. Burst out in song, sing together, O ruins of Jerusalem, for God has consoled his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. God has revealed his holy arm before the eyes of all of the nations, and all of the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. So here, Isaiah is employing this idea of we're going to see the redemption. It's going to be real. It's going to be palpable. It's not going to be a ethereal dream. We are going to see it, and the nations will see it, and it will be good. And part of this is connected to the very, very end of Hoshana Rabbah. The very end of Hoshana Rabbah, it's not exactly this, but it's very, very close. The idea of a redeemer coming and announcing the redemption. And this is at the end of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. The end of Hoshana Rabbah is announcing the redemption. So I just want to end with just two things here, is that one of Reb Shlomo's teachings was we have to learn to see with Mashiach eyes. What did he mean? He meant that we long for a fixed world. We long for a world of peace, of harmony, of people coming together, of an end to warfare and hatred and killing and all of this. But he said that, what does it mean to see with Mashiach eyes? That we have to try to see the world from positivity. And that will help draw Mashiach. That's what he meant, to see the eyes, to see with Mashiach eyes, to see the goodness. We're all aware of how broken the world can be, of how much pain there is, how much suffering there is. We all know that, and we can get overwhelmed with it. But at the same time, we can also try very hard and train ourselves to see the good in other people, the good in life, the good in every situation. Not to be like an ostrich with our head in the sand, but despite all of that, to see the good. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said a very similar thing. And he said about Mashiach, he said to everyone, he said, open your eyes. Mashiach is here. So like, where? Please show us. Please show us. But what did he mean? He meant that Mashiach is very close. And the way we have to draw the energy of Mashiach in the world, and we do it through, in a sense, imagining how good the world will be and try to live that way now. And they said, again, with the eyes, open the eyes. Mashiach is here. So these two statements are really saying the same thing. And this is just a beautiful way for us to end learning together the fruits of the orchard. We made it from Bereshit through Zot HaBrachah. And many of you watching now quite literally went the whole way. And I can't even express my appreciation. But this is a very, very good way to end the Torah that will lead to the beginning of the next cycle. And it's a great way to go into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah, Simchas Torah. We have to see the newness. Remember, Ein Yaakov equals Chadash. The eyes of Yaakov, Mashiach eyes, is to try to see everything new, clarified, positive. And I bless everyone that we're able to accomplish this, and that everyone should be blessed with the Ketiva v'Chatima Tova, a blessed year, a sweet year, a year of good health. Again, we want to send our blessings to Robert, Yaakov, Shimon, Ben, Beryl, should have a refuah shlema. Everyone who needs a refuah shlema should have it. Refuah shlema. Everyone who needs to get married should get married. Everyone who needs to have children should have children. Everyone who wants more grandchildren should have more grandchildren. We should have livelihood. We should have inspiration. We should have joy, and we should have peace. People? No.